we are finally ready to get into game number 6 of the final slot for the N4C main event between Mr. and B. B now on match point, and Mr. 1 game away from oblivion. How will he strike back? Well, he will try to strike true with the omnipotent force of the Mongols. And it seems it's not Mongolian Heights. I must have got those two mixed up. So Mongolian Heights will be the 7th map, should Mr. win here. And it means Mr. is playing the Mongols on his most desired map. We've seen this guy is actually very comfortable at pulling them out on King of the Hills. He tends to escalate very quickly towards Castle Age and try to overwhelm his opponent. We actually saw him do it very effectively against, I believe it was Vortex in the previous qualifier. But this time around, like, he's not going to be facing off against a more passive Civ. In that matchup, I say passive, the way France had to play was passive. This time around, it's going to be against a Mongol. It's going to be a mirror matchup. And as I said, this is at least a very exciting mirror matchup because this Civ has a lot of options early on. There's a lot of branching choices. And the Khan also gives a lot of power towards these initial fights instead of them just being a slog in of me having 5 spear and you having exactly 5 spear. But opening this up, B has spent a lot of time shifting across. His Uvu is far, far away, and he dragged his TC all the way over here. I believe he started around here, so it wasn't 1,000,001 miles, but it has slowed down the rate of production. B at 6 eco and Mr. up at 9. That is a very big hit. And he didn't have a choice. Look at the woodline situation. There was nowhere for him to go. This is an outrageous spawn. I mean, I would be calling for a remake in this situation. I mean, B, if he wraps around the back and he sees that Mr. Yeah, he didn't have many trees, but he had something, right? He has 2 small clusters. B had to go this way. He had to sacrifice the villager production because the alternative is playing to the outright back corner of the map where you're nowhere near gold. This was the only option available to him, and even then, look how far away gold is. Ouch. That is a stinger right there. Mr. will spot out where B is. He has to be suspicious. Like, how far did he roll? There's no way. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. now just looks over, eyeballs the eco count, and understands just how vastly ahead he is of B. Now, this isn't the end of the world. We're not going to write B out here, but he's definitely playing from behind to open this up. And I wouldn't be surprised if he, straight away goes into racks because he needs to find a way to punish Mr. and ensure that he doesn't get away with his ultimate greed. Because the reality is, now, already being 3 eco units down, you understand that Mr. can escalate ahead of you. At least one of the good things for B is this shift over here has given him a nice natural choke point. It shouldn't be too easy to reach his eco lines, but I'm still concerned about the gold situation. He has to get so far away from the TC just to be able to extract. It feels like B is doing his best to pivot these awkward situations, but it's got to be frustrating, right? You feel a little bit screwed over here after the initial crawl over with your town center, and then the fact that now, even when you're going to get gold, you are going to be incredibly vulnerable. Cannot be a happy situation for B. B, in the meantime, just trying to strip away some of these sheep from Mr. And oh, no, no, no. Is Mr. going to do it? So Mr. right now can win the fight with the Khan, and then he can stop the racks going down. And that's exactly why B does this. He's going to be sensible. He has to roll this so far back to the Uvu. This is so crippling to watch. And all the while, Mr. now teching up. Very cozy. Only went for 1 pasture in the end. He wanted to access that feudal even quicker. I think he realizes just how quickly he could end this game due to the terrible spawn for B. And this is the only option you have. It's a big gold vein, but it's a risky one. Your TC isn't that close. Compare on the other side, Mr. is tapping on these 8k gold veins, but he's in range of his town center. He's actually protected. So it's very important that B gets initial troops out and keeps his opponent at bay. My concern is that Mr. is a smart cookie. He'll understand the edge he has. He already sees the racks investment coming out from B. And now B will have Spearmen, but with Mr. about to complete his tech up, he will have access to the archers, and all of a sudden you can't even play early game pressure. Nice outpost play also coming out. B will not be able to deny this either. Just measly 2 damage coming out the Khan. Almost loses the Khan because of the garrison. Nice play by Mr. This is... I mean, I hate to see it come down to this. I think this is one of the most one-sided generations we've seen all day, folks. This really is B having to climb a mountain much bigger than the King of the Hill Central mountain here. In fact, if anything, it feels like B is at the bottom of this pit right here, and he has to just climb out. We'll see if he can do it. We can see if he actually equipped his mountaineering gear. He's definitely going to need it in this game. Spearman will be chased away. Rax just feeling irrelevant right now. Shift back. Maybe it will come back into play if they can make it to castle, but it's a long way out. However, after all that, Mista only now completing the tech up. B is going to rush it. 8 villagers working on this steer stone to get it up as quickly as possible. However, we will now see the archery range being dropped by Mista. B is going to keep this tighter than I think Mista would like. And these pastures, this is the other detail that's going to matter. As this game goes on, you're going to actually have to expend a lot more of your wood count to invest in pastures to get the same value that Mista has. Because remember, he has this Uvu close by that is enabling him on the economy front, but also now going to allow that double production. Meanwhile, should you ever try to set up new archery, a new stable, whatever, you have to move them so far away to this Uvu. It feels like this Uvu is going to be a throwaway. B's going to have to try and skirt a late timing, and it's just going to be a passive stone generator, and then he's going to try to shift towards the center one. But even that is risky. I mean, if you look at it, he doesn't have good options. There's only 2 stone points in this map generation in the center, and both of them are in the center. They're not on the edges. You have to play hard towards them. Outpost now coming out from B, but the damage is taken. He's got to walk the villagers back. Unhappy about that, I'm sure. And you can see how close he was to losing them one right here. And he can't afford to lose more. You got to remember, it's still a 4-point differential in favor of Mista. After that annoying slog of the TC having to roll so far to just deploy somewhere favorable. Now the archer's coming in. Need to be quick this beat. He's going to lose 1 villager. He's going to have to just to get this up to protect himself. But the outpost will go down in the end. And that will force Mista back. And the commitment on the Khan. Needs to be careful. Could end up losing his own Khan. Almost gets through Mista's, but unable to do so. And I have to wonder, what's going to be the switch up? Like, what is the choice here? Does B just go full eco and try to greed his way to castle? Is that the play he has to invest in? Because Mista has shown signs of aggression in feudal. He went for both the archery range and the stables, so he is going to be a clear and present danger for the next 5 minutes. I guess the one piece of good news, at least, is if B ever wants to collect these relics, he's already got 1 in his base. I'm clutching at straws with that. That's not exactly a big upside for him anytime soon. But he is going to be dropping a stable of his own. Good solution. Horsemen alone, if you get enough of them, can deal with both the horsemen of your opponent and the archers. And B, he's going to get assassinated. Loses 1 of the villagers. Nice move in there by Mista. Will cost him his Khan. And usually this would be very painful at this stage in the game. You have to remember that Mista is 6 eco units ahead of B. And B has shown no signs of aggressing into Mista's eco lines. And it is pretty depressing to watch. Imagine if B had an archery range in this game. Just a few archers on this high ground could easily punish this wood line that's so exposed that Mista has. But no dice, no option. Spears being invested in because B has no choice. But you can see what Mista's playing towards. He wants to get rid of the Uvu and get rid of the Rax. That's going to be easy money in his pocket. 25 food and gold per. And because he sees the archers coming, B has to surrender it over. He'll move away the few spear he's got, but I don't see any easy way you're going to be able to protect these buildings. I'm not even really sure you should be trying. You only have early horsemen. You only got 4 spearmen. Not ideal. And look at the scaling. Mista, he's making his way up. I mean, B is... he's stuck. There's no easy way out of this. He's going to be forced to fight. He's going to move in now. Archers are going to be jumped by the horsemen. But remember, they're only early horsemen. They're not even hitting that hard, really. But it's hard enough. With the assistance of the Khan, they're going to get through the archer count. Meanwhile, the spears just zerg and chase away these horsemen. And surprising that Mista doesn't want to engage them. There's barely any of them left. The archers are getting through them, though. He's min-maxing as best he can to ensure he protects the pricey unit. Because remember, these archers are a lot cheaper than the horses. And that's why the horses now jump in. Straight on top of these early horsemen with a clear lead over them. We'll lose most of the archers in the end. 1 or 2 spearmen left, and that's going to be enough to buffer him off. And at the end of it, B will stay alive, but look at the difference. B forced to double down with even more spearmen. In the meantime, Mista continued to scale naturally towards that movement in Castle Age, something that B is still struggling with. I'm wondering, like, what kind of play B can make here. I think you have to go really off script to get back into this now. Like, he's a smart lad. He knows he's behind. He has to know he's behind. A secondary TC is really not an option. It just feels way too pricey at 900 wood. Maybe an outpost spam, but I think that's too late as well. These horsemen will pick you apart. It's really tough. And this is the other issue. He just keeps having to run all the way across to address this. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if B had just called it, asked for a map reset, or accepted it's going to need to be a Game 7. It feels like it's slowly but surely going that way. You can see Mista's almost ready for the Castle Age. B, although he's starting to gather together what he can, the problem he's going to have is the stone usage. He needs a secondary UVU. He needs it on the front line. He needs a military district. Instead, he's forced to defend at all times. Spearman moving out, trying to back off the horseman. Doing a reasonable job. We'll turn on the Khan instead, and you can pew him down, finish him off with the Khan easy enough. So that'll be him dead. However, the count now in favor of Mista, and it looks like B might lose his Khan as well. He's going to fall. And while this is all happening, Mista is now making his way up to Castle. On the other side, B is just not ready. He's flowing a lot of wood. I wonder if he is somewhat considering it. No, he's not going for the TC. It's just a pasture investment. He needs all of the food he can get. I just don't think all the food in the world's going to save you at this rate. It's going to take a miracle to turn this. I respect B for not giving up, nonetheless. Like I said, we've seen players today that would have easily given up when they saw this generation, but he refuses to tap down and out, instead holding on to the bitter end. The end might not be far away. Mista almost done with the tech up, and that is when this escalates very quickly. And you can see he's already prepped the racks, ready to zerg out those man-at-arms. I wouldn't even be surprised if he drops a villager at the center of the map to put down an outpost so he quickly shifts across towards his opponent's base. There's the bad news. And B, he's getting close to his own number. My concern is, what do you do with it the moment you arrive? He's going to set up an outpost over here right now. He's only got a stable and a racks, and that means his opponent is out-escalating him, right? He's got the double racks, he's got the stable and the archer range himself. He has every single piece to the puzzle to crack B. And B is very limited in many ways as it stands. This, I mean, if he pulls this off, I will tip my hat. I'll probably dub B the best Mongol player in the damn game if he whips this one out. But it's very hard to see how he's going to do it. Up to 7 pastures just to try and sustain his further eco. And maybe eke out a win. But first, he needs to eke out a tech up. It's going to be there now. He can drop the step readout. But his opponent is already pushing out. Man-at-arms soon to arrive. It feels like this is too delayed. Forward outpost is going to be there from Mista. He'll have a quick way across. And B might have a quick way out of this game. Even more outposts. He's going to need everything. He needs Springwood upgrades as well. And he might be caught in the middle of the upgrade at this rate. He's going to garrison, but look how many troops are here. The villagers, they're nowhere near done. He didn't build the step readout right next to his TC, and now he's in trouble. B is going to be chased away. Halfway complete on the tech up, and Mista is going to expose the soft underbelly of the B army. And yeah, this is do or die. All the villagers, 26 of them running out, because if he can't get the tech up, the game's over anyway. He'll play it to the bitter end, but it is going to be bitter either way. Textiles will help him once again, saving the day and keeping his villagers alive for longer. In the meantime, man-at-arms and lancers are prioritizing the villagers. They'll have to turn around with the horsemen now. Tech up will be complete, but B now down at 34 villagers. Meanwhile, Mista up at 47, and not enough garrison room here to protect them all. They have to run all the way back to the TC. B, I don't know. Is this part of the strategy, what we were talking about, that Mista doesn't like these longer series? Is he doing this intentionally just to make Mista sweat for it? Not sweat, maybe yawn for it, because we said fatigue is an issue for Mista. And B, in a game where really most players would have tapped out long ago, he still refuses to wave the white flag. But we are getting close to the dive point. You've got a lot of villagers, not enough room to protect them all. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mista just ran straight underneath your TC. And I think this is where it comes in. Doesn't realize he can go for the tree line. That's the only good piece of news for B. Lancers of his own coming out. Man-at-arms as well. Step readout is going to redeploy, but this count is still so favorable for Mista. And the resource limitation. B doesn't have any gold anymore. I don't think he has a way back in. Like I said, would have been a miracle. I would have been impressed. But even with the marketplace, I don't think these trades are going to be good enough to get you back in this game. I think we are going to go all the way here. I think this is going to need a deciding 7th game as B will shake his fist and feel ripped off by the generation, quite rightly so, because this must be one of the most one-sided maps I have seen in a long time, and it's not due to outskill alone. It really did come down to that seed. This will be the final game of the N4C Qualifiers as we head into game number 7 here on Mongolian Heights, and it's as we anticipated. B will be whipping out the greedy England. Meanwhile, Mista will be manning the French on a map that usually you would not think to bring them out on. And also, balance has been restored to the universe, as B will be in the red as England, and Mista's France will be in the blue. The most important detail. I'm sorry, I had to get it out of the way. Let's be real. Like, honestly, I've said it before. Stick it in the code. It needs to be a ruling. But they will be repping the correct colors, and it comes down to this. Mista, he said his big weakness when he goes into this series is when they slog out, when they take too long, when he arrives in these late series situations, the fatigue sets in. But now he's going to have to yawn, splash his face with Mountain Dew, and wake the hell up because he's possibly just one game away from making it through to the first major Age of Empires 4 LAN. On the other side, B, he's buzzing for this. This is what he's been waiting for all along. He drafted Mongolian Heights for the final map, knowing that if it arrived here, he would get to play his greedy England. He would get to choke control, and he knew his opponent would be limited on the faction front. And B, a lad who has been grinding the ladders, stomping people left, right, and center with unorthodox strategies, might finally get an opportunity to make them look orthodox, as he might get a shot at that 100k LAN, and it would be a big boom for him. Remember, B, he came across from a StarCraft 2 background, earning around $20,000 in the last few years. This could be a big bolster. In one go, if he makes the LAN and makes that final, he could actually exceed his earnings after years in StarCraft. But it starts here. And a classic matchup to decide it as well. One that has been teetering in existence since the game released, but these days England is a more maniacal beast than France with a lot more flexy options. And in this type of map on Mongolian Heights with these choke points and what we know B likes to do, I wouldn't be surprised if he just walls off the passes and blocks Mista's aggression and then looks to float up into Castle Imperial before Mista's able to punish him. But that's all ahead of us. We're at least a few minutes away. I'm going to be interested to see if Mista plays onto the waterfront. I think it could actually cost him dearly, because England exploits fishing economies to the maximum. The longbow range isn't easily counterable. However, France might be the civ that can do it. If he is able to get that initial dock down, remember that something we don't get to see anymore because it's weirdly fallen out of favor is hulks. France is able to build hulks in feudal, and if this just catches B with his trousers down unexpectedly, it would be remarkable to see, because I don't remember the last time I saw hulks look bullyish and dominant like they used to be in the opening months of Age of Empires. The tech's underway. Only 2 people invested by B, meanwhile 4 for Mista. And that's another reason, by the way, why England's not going to play on the waterfront. They don't want to build their own dock because they're going to be up against France to begin with. Also, if you go for dock, it slows down your timing. And that's why both players haven't dropped the dock. Although Mista could try and boost himself up with the hulks later on, if he was to invest in the initial dock now, it would slow down his economy and it would stunt his ability to actually get out and provide that firepower from the hulks, because he would be blocked on the initial dock due to the fact that Lombos would be in the field denying his villages. So we'll see which one gets more payoff, though. I expect Mista to be going into maybe a few Horsemen here. I actually like the idea of Horsemen. If you choose Horsemen, you actually float Eco in wood and gold. And that will allow you to then move out and drop that dock and instantly get a Hulk out. That's the difference between Knights and Horsemen in this situation. I actually think it's very beneficial to not waste initial gold on these Knights. And Scouts in the meantime. How many Scouts are we up to? 2. Mista has only got 1. I feel like he actually got quite a lot of sheep for only 1. So big credit to him, but that notable difference we were talking about before, the fact that the craft players tend to prioritize vision a lot more. And on this map, it's very beneficial to instantly get that second scout because it allows you to quickly move to center and then just shift out left and right, where I'd say about 80%, 70%, 80% of the sheep on the map are located, and it will give the edge, which we can see for B as he shifts another bunch of sheep into his base. There it is, tech up. Rack's already prepped as well. And the dock's going down. But B, he's doing it. He's placing the walls, but it means he's going to allow Mista control the pass. And remember, these Hulks can get through the palisades quickly, courtesy of the fact that you only have 50 missile resistance and Hulk smash for 100. Now the question is, can B get the scouts and the spears out and deny this dock before Mista gets the bow? Because Mista is going for that Hulk. He's doing what we talked about. He's going into the Horseman, allowing him to save up gold and wood for the first Hulk. And by the time he has 3 of these Hulks, B is going to be pinned in. And the problem with that is that B won't be pinned in the way he wants to. He wants to control the straights to scale up. However, if the Hulks guard the passing, Mista will have free reign to raid in, and B will have no way out. And he probably will not get the time required to look to castle on Imperial and just try to stomp the French in a late game situation. Meanwhile, Palisades going up in the north as well. Center pass controlled. He needs to be fast about this. If he moves the spear and the scouts now, he might be able to deny this before the Hulk comes out. But there's the money. Mista hasn't started to build it, and it looks like B's going to allow it. He's not even trying to burn it down. Instead, he's going to build the Palisade walls up. I'm not sure about this. This feels like a mistrick. Mista, he's not buying the Hulk either. He needs to sort his pop situation. He could start constructing it, but for now, he's actually hoarding. How many we got here? 3 spears, a scout. You have to start burning this. I mean, the problem is, like, surely if B is thinking about this logically, if Mista's already started constructing the Hulk, it's too late. However, if Mista's already started constructing the Hulk, you're screwed. And there it is. And he's taking too long to get around because he built the Palisades up. Oh my goodness. I don't think this is going to be quick enough. Mista might dodge a bullet here. He was delayed on the construction of the Hulk. He shouldn't have got this out. B could have denied this dock in time, but now with the Horsemen arriving as well, there's no easy way to move out and burn this quick enough. Oh, in this game just took a dark turn for B. He chose this map. He had clear intent here. He understood the way he wanted to play this. But Mista is going to deny him the ability to just choke control and lock himself in and cruise into Imperial. It looks like B might end up with raids into his territory because the first Hulk is going to emerge. And there it is. Just dance circles around. That's a denial on the dock. He'll butcher 2 villagers. And this is getting dark quickly for B. I can just imagine B. We've seen how smiley he looks when he's holding his medals on his Liquipedia page. I can just imagine him kind of having that smug smile. Whoopsie! I mean, you got in this situation, the way that this is opened up. Mista taking, what, an extra 20 seconds at least to build the Hulk? And B, look at the damage he done. Imagine if he went straight away with the villagers and with the spearmen. He would have burned this dock down. He would have denied Mista. But instead, now Mista will be the one controlling these straights. Oh boy. I think this series is starting to take its toll on both players. Not optimal out of either, but Mista just with the natural ability to take the edge because of those Hulks. And now he can open up the passes. He won't give B that breathing room to get extra greedy. Now Archer's also coming out. We'll just try to skirmish around and deal with a few straggler spearmen B have over here. But B, make no mistake, this game's going to get uncomfortable fast. And the only good news for B is actually Mista isn't using this Hulk to breach the palisade walls. It's just kind of patrolling up and down right now. Paranoid about the crossings, understandably so. But with palisade on fire, that will give access to the north for Mista. And he already is going to start eyeing up the center. The damage done to this palisade, the fact the Hulk is here, he could easily breach at the center and ride straight into 3DB's territory. Oh, look at this out of Mista. All right. He says, I control the straits. I'm going to force you to be present. That means I can be greedy. He's going to drop the TC. And all of a sudden, Mista, already ahead by 6 eco units, that's going to escalate in the blink of an eye. And that's all because, remember, B, he rode out 2 of these villages, one to build up the palisade, a second off the dock, and he lost both of them. In the meantime, Mista is going to open up more passings. And B, he's going to try to drop some outposts. He realizes he can't get too close to the coastline or the Hulk will obliterate him. And you can see Mista is so paranoid. He's like, where is he? Is he coming on the... He's got to be coming on water. He tried before. I saw him doing it. He's got to be coming now. But B, he says, no. I'm not coming anywhere near you. Instead, I'm going to rush it. King's Palace being constructed. A really good timing for the England side. And it means that this TC advantage that Mista just built is going to even out. However, keep in mind, France will still have an edge, courtesy of the quicker production rate on the villages. You have to wonder, is B going to get extra greedy? I don't think he's going to get out of line. I don't expect a trip TC situation. He is going to have to get present soon, because these horsemen are breaching and moving across on his side of the map. And it means as he extends out, as he expands on his farmlands, that's going to be raiding opportunities for the French player. There it is, Mista. Strokes his chin. Wonders, did I make the right choice? I think he'll be comfortable with this one, folks. You can see he's already halfway to taking up himself. He'll be a little bit behind B, but not a notable margin. At the same time, he knows his eco is going to scale quicker than that of England's. And now B, because he did invest in a decent amount of longbows, spearmen, and of course the palisades, you can notice he's not floating additional wood that would allow him to quickly switch over to farms. This does cripple him a little bit because now you're up in castle. There's actually a lot of value out of going to farms. Remember the influence, the way it works is when you have farms near the mills, as England, for each tech up, you get an additional 5% gather rate. So you can see if you start setting these up, it's going to be a 25% increased gather rate as England. Wolves, in the meantime, realizing how unfair this is on B, will try to assist him, but Mista doesn't care. And the Hulks really do have him in check. And it's not a hard investment. It's only one Hulk, because he doesn't need more. And instead, now Mista, if he wants, he can start to actually get the fishing fleet up. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does scale this. Like, wood is decent to cover it. In the meantime, though, he's investing his wood into the military district. He's prepping for a castle age timing, and then it should be a push out of arbaletriers and upgraded knights. And while he's hitting his critical time, and B is just kind of stuck on the cannon fodder, right? He's just got his spears and his longbows. They are decent here, however. They will deal with most of the things that Mista can push out. I would actually love, with this info now being fed back, for Mista to not go into arbaletriers, but instead start prepping archers. We'll see what the choice is going to be. It looks like it is going to be a guild hall coming out, so he's playing maximum greed. Understandable. Usually when you go Royal Institute, it's because you're behind. It's because you feel you need to catch up and you need to end the game in the next 5 minutes. In this situation, Mista feels like he could float into Imperial Age ahead of his opponent. So there's no need to just rush getting those Imperial Age techs now when he can actually get the benefits of Guild Hall and still come back for the Imperial Age layer. I wonder. There it is, Siege Workshop. So this could be the Springle play coming out from B. But Springles aren't exactly quick at burning down Hulks. It's something that I've been quite nitpicky about. I think it's actually a big problem that I think Springles need a buff against C units. Some people will be like, no, Springles, they can't be better. But the reality is we've addressed the biggest issue with Springles. Springles were absurd on land. Age of Springle is dead. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't have a place in the game. Yes, they're anti-siege, and yes, that has value. But the increased costs and the fact that there's no clear counter to C units in War Hybrid maps, I don't think it would be too much to ask to give Springles the ability to snipe out Hulks. I guess in theory, like the justification for what isn't that way is Bombards exists. But going up in Imperial is a whole other beast. And I feel like a lot of these games, when you're oppressed in Castle and you lose control of the waterfronts, the game kind of like stalls and you can't move up and the game feels over. I think B, at this rate, might have a way up in Imperial, but if he does it, it's going to leave him very exposed when Mr. is escalating. You can see the amount of cavalry in the field. There you go. First Sprinkle comes out. He needs to get rid of these Hulks, but he's only going to do 28 damage per shot. It's going to take a long time. Maybe we need a new siege unit. The Harpoons. I don't know. Something. Springles are going to start to fire. Wait. Oh, they did that. I'm an idiot. What? How did I miss this? I'm a moron. Ignore me, guys. It's a long day. I think that's what it is. I definitely read that change somewhere. It's a more recent one. It wasn't done originally, I'm pretty sure. Thank God they done that change, actually. Sorry, guys. We're 8 hours in. You'll have to forgive me for one whoopsie-daisy in this situation. But yeah, you see the power now. I think it was the most recent patch, right? Yeah. In fairness, I think this is the first time I've seen Springles utilized against ships. Kind of weird to say. After so many games watched, it doesn't feel like it comes down to Springles to just clean up Hulks because, well, we never see France on Water Hybrid anymore. We actually rarely ever see Hulks coming out. But now we're going to see an opportunity for B to bounce back. However, he's being juked and jived left to right. You can see that Mr. is riding deeper into the eco lines. And Mr., as it stands, with a 22 eco unit lead. One that he'll be happy to escalate further. And all the villagers, although they'll be saved. Remember, that's like 30 villagers not working. And now, all of a sudden, Mr.'s control of the waterfront doesn't feel stabilized. He actually needs siege of his own. And I'm kind of concerned at the fact that he doesn't feel the same way. Like, how are you not getting into a siege workshop at this stage? Instead, it's just going to be man-at-arms coming out. But your opponent already has a siege workshop. So it could be easy for him to now play into Mangonels, and that's going to leave you very vulnerable. Knights, in the meantime, continue to just be a huge frustration and a fall on the side of B. Another one is going to fall, but still 2 Knights left to worry about, and they are so damn annoying in this situation. Meanwhile, Mr. continue to escalate. B does have a bigger military force, and these Springles are a problem. You can see he's just flaunting them. He's got the outpost here, so if you get too close, you're going to juice up their attack speed. There's enough longbowmen here to repel you. He does need some more spear in the mix, but so far the spears are actually having to guard the eco lines, so they're not ready to hold against a frontal assault. This could be exploitable by Mr. if he identifies it. And even if he doesn't kill the Hulk, notice what he forces. Mr. can't guard the pass anymore. He has to give a wide berth to these Springles, and it means that Bede will have a way to push into French territory. Does need to be careful about what he's doing here, though. This is risky. Yeah, he realizes it as well. I think if he rolls them any further out, the Knights ride in and burn them. But one thing that isn't happening on the other side, is the play into religion. The monastery's been built. B is going to look to collect up these relics. He has got 3 on his side. The problem he has is Mr. is escalating fast. Siege Workshop now being dropped. He also gets the keep down, so now he's getting the discount on the archery range in the stables. And all of a sudden, he just might inflate. B already now falling behind the military front. He needs more time. And these palisades aren't protecting him either. He needs to enclose himself. There's going to be a flank attack soon. Even if he needs to do that. I mean, Mr. right now is just going to ride deep. 10 Knights moving in. And this is the eco power. The double TC play for France is paying off already. Moving in on the Springles. One's going to be burnt down. Knights will pull back before the spears can engage. But there's not that many spears here. This is trouble right now for B. Mr. is going to engage. Knights are going to hold in the front. Archers are going to clean up the spears. And this is looking too cut and dry. B has nothing left. The longbows are going to be butchered. The spears are all but gone. He's already behind on the eco count, and it's a never-ending force pushing towards his base. I think Mister's done it. Overcoming his weakness. He said it himself. The thing that he struggles with is these long series. As the day draws later, he feels like he's burning out quick. But the only one who's going up in flames in this game is B. B will not make it to the N4C LAN. It will be Mr. making it through, overcoming his weakness, going 7 games, and justifiably taking this in the end 4-3. And what a way to do it. So well played by Mr. Understands exactly what B wants to do and just counters it out. Goes for the secondary TC, understands where the scaling's going to be, ensures that B doesn't get the 4th point. Ignore what I've done with the score there. It is, in fact, Mr. who will make it through and take that final slot at N4C. But there are going to be some thoughts to be had on this one. I mean, for a start, let's not even look at the wider thing. Let's focus on this game, because something interesting to look at is fatigue was setting in on both sides, I think. When we actually look at this game, B made some interesting mistakes around the dock. He didn't rush out with the initial spearman. He boxed himself in with the palisade so he couldn't get out quicker. And Mr., on the other hand, didn't get the Hulk out. It took him ages. Both players made a big error in the early game, and because it neutralizes, because it evens out, because they're both screwing up there, Mr. comes out ahead due to the power of the Hulk when it gets out in the field. And B has no answer but to go up to Castle. And Mr., so quick to identify this, invests in a second TC. Understanding that while England naturally gets a second TC, when they go Castle, you can actually sidestep to a secondary TC. You have increased production rates on your villages. You're already ahead because you assassinated 2 of his villages, 3 of his villages on the front, and it means you're going to stay ahead as the game goes on. This was such a smart move by Mr. And considering that we don't see France that often on Mongolian Heights, it's not an easy, comfortable, clearly understood play to make. And especially when you consider the fact that B doesn't play your standard England. All these choices being made by Mr. aren't familiar. They're not like clear cut. We already talked about the issue around fatigue, but when you get this late game this late series situation rather, the fatigue isn't only setting in terms of you being drained. I think this weird matchup for you that you're maybe not doing as much anymore with France on Mongolian Heights is forcing you to think on the fly a lot. And that is where I have to give so much credit to Mr. The way he pivoted in this game, the way he understood his strengths and weaknesses and adapted proves exactly why he deserves to be at the LAN. I think there's a lot of players in this situation who have gone out in this tournament that we have seen get a little bit pig-headed, a little bit stubborn. They come in with a plan, and whether it works or not, they just commit to it. They don't have the flexibility in mind. That is the difference with Mr., and that's exactly why he's earned his spot on the LAN. Now, the question that will be asked is what happened in Game 6? That is the one that I think is going to sting most for B. I think he accepts the outcome in this game. Mr. outplayed him. But at the end of the day, this was close. And I think it's quite unfortunate the way that Game 6 was decided because B was definitely a disadvantage, but I can't take it away from Mr. He blitzed this. He came back. He came back from the edge of the abyss. B, such amazing pressure early on this series, did not make it easy for him, but Mr. is able to turn it around. Congratulations to him. Commiserations to B, as Mr. will be the final participant at the N4C LAN in Germany, where he will be joined by Viper, the Muslim, Marine Lord, Beastie Cutie, Vortex, Lucifron, and finally, rounding it out, making sure we're not too EU biased here, my friends, it will be Leenock, representing Korea, representing the rest of the world. Of course, being joined by the Muslim representing the rest of the world because we're not EU, we're Brexit. But I'm glad we at least got a little bit of taste. Unfortunately, in some ways, we didn't get some more representation. I think it would have been cool to have a CIS player in there, but I can't discredit Mr. He overcame his issue. Right? He overcame the boogeyman in the closet, which has been these longer series. He finds a way to power through, and he earns this spot. So big congratulations to him. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do on the main LAN. But that does bring the qualifiers to a close. That's right. It's been fun. 2 weekends of non-stop action, probably about 32 hours of footage gained for us, and probably more when I go back to watch more in the week. But it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. It's been fun to bring it to you. Would have been nice if we got a co-caster, but I probably should have looked for that a little bit quickly. I didn't even ask you people, I'm not going to lie. But no, it has been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to leave it there because I do need to go cook, so I'm not going to drag this out too long. But what a way to conclude this. Big Leon LAN. We're going to get to see Mr. make it to the first big LAN after he started to blitz onto the scene in the early days. Excited for that as well. And of course, you know, when we think about the start of this day, Lucy making it onto LAN with his bro, it just feels somewhat right that both Vortex and Lucifron are going to be there for the first big Age of Empires 4 LAN, considering what they've been putting into this game already. And they bring such a prestige with them. And that's what I love to see. Warcraft vets, Starcraft vets, Age of Empire vets, all being represented here. Whether it's Age of Empires 2 or maybe something smaller than Age of Mythology. You've got a nice diverse group of players from different games on a brand new RTS.